Now, tonight we're talking about the plastic paradox. So we're looking at Malta's recycling progress over the past year in particular, and also we'll be looking at the urgency of reduction. Reduction of what? Well, reduction of using plastic bottles in particular. So why are we looking at that? Why is all of this important? Well, today is actually the 1-year anniversary of BCRS, the Beverage Container Recycling Scheme here in Malta. So congratulations to BCRS. Happy first anniversary. And in fact, I updated these figures just before the show as I saw the first social media posts from BCRS themselves on their numbers. So the pros of BCRS, as far as we can see, are 200 million containers recycled. I mean, that's pretty awesome, isn't it? That's 200 million mixed beverage containers of plastics and also glass and metal. Now, we know from previous numbers that there are about 200 million plastic bottles alone, just plastic bottles used in Malta. So 200 million containers recycled of mixed types is a really good start. And that's 9,000 tons of waste that's been prevented from going into landfill and recycled, which is a 77% collection rate according to the BCRS numbers. Although, to be honest, I don't know what a collection rate actually is. That's also generated some revenue for people who wanted to be litter pickers as a part-time income, and also some charities. And at the same time, we've seen some recent news articles that mixed waste has decreased by 1/5. So that's 18,000 tons, of which a substantial part of that has been the organic waste that's been collected. But it must also be in some part to BCRS being more effective at promoting recycling. Now, is this all a good thing? Well, I think there are some downsides. What about all those CO2 emissions from single-use journeys to take the bottles and other containers to a BCRS machine? Well, I guess everything comes at some kind of a cost. And there are no doubt plenty of single-use journeys, and even there's been some narrative and some posts about going around different machines trying to find one where the queues aren't so bad or whatever, especially earlier on. Not so much nowadays, or you don't see it so much nowadays. What about the CO2 emissions on the collection, the processing and the exporting of waste? Remembering that we don't actually process a lot of that waste. In fact, any of it, as far as I know, we don't process that in Malta. So we package our waste up and we sell it to somebody else in a different country. Although, as far as I know, this is European. This is in Europe, so that's a plus. And also they are certified recycling sites. The other con is really, so the downside is all the time spent in participating in this. And we see social media posts quite often about the extra time involved in just, instead of going to, in going to BCRS machines, instead of just putting it in a grey bag. So there's a bit of a sort of downside on that. And I think we've all seen profiteering by sit-down catering establishments who have not always applied the rules correctly and charged people a bit extra for having plastic bottles. But it is definitely better than not having BCRS, for sure, from a recycling perspective. So what I wanted to do today was that this was progress. Malta has made progress in recycling, that's for sure, and there's no doubt going to be further progress as well. The government has also been encouraging people to use less plastic bottles in particular, with grants available for water filtration systems, which has certainly been useful for a lot of our clients who have had water filtration systems from us, eliminated the use of plastic bottles and got 40% refund as well. But let's have a look at some myths about plastic recycling and put this all into context. There are 6 myths that I want to go through, and one thing to be aware of rather than say it's a myth. What about plastic can be used over and over again? Well, this is the kind of message that we see coming from bottlers, people who sell soft drinks and water in plastic bottles. We see it also from the oil and gas industry, and we see it also in retail and all sort of other areas. This message that it's perfectly okay to use single-use plastic because you can use it as many times as you like. And it's a myth. It is not true. Factually, it is not true. So the process of recycling currently is, for the time being, downcycling. That means that your plastic bottle most likely becomes a plastic brush, a brush head, you know, the bristles on a brush, or a carpet, or, more common, polyester yarn. Now, we also know that polyester yarn is used in polyester clothing. So that's clothing that's quite often not used for long periods of times or a long time. It's clothing that doesn't have a long lifespan and also delivers microplastics into our environment. So your plastic bottle becomes something else and then pollutes the environment. And then what happens to it? Well, after it's been used as a plastic brush head or a carpet or polyester yarn for clothing, it then becomes landfill. So it hasn't been used over and over again. However, it would be lovely if it was always used over and over again, and we'll come on to some numbers on that in a minute. So what about another myth? We often hear that PET bottles are part of the circular economy. So don't worry about using your plastic, a single-use plastic bottle, just buy it, drink whatever you need to drink, and then put it in a BCRS machine, get your deposit back, and then it'll be turned into something else more useful as part of the circular economy. Well, not quite. No, it's not really happening quite. It is happening in some, to a limited extent, in some areas. However, this research from Zero Waste Europe, which I found really interesting, it is a long article, it's a long PDF document with lots of information in it and very factual and all data driven. So only about 17% of rPET is really used in bottles. That rPET is recycled PET. So where you see companies saying, we'll keep using our plastic bottle because it's all made out of recycled plastic, not always quite the case. It's also in zero waste calculations, not likely that we'll get above 61% usage of PET for plastic bottles to use again and again and again. So take that, what you see out there, as it were, as general information in a bit of context. To find this kind of information, you actually have to dig quite deep. There is a lot of PR coming out from the recycling organisations, so trade associations of recycling companies, remembering that there's money in recycling, so that's why there's a trade association with positive messages going out. And also the same for plastic bottles and also the retailers and wholesalers in that sort of business. So what happens in general to all the plastic that we use? And what about this myth, recycling is the solution for the plastics crisis? Not really. No, not at all, really. Between the 1950s and 2017, 9.2 billion tonnes of plastic have been manufactured. And out of this, 600 million tonnes has been recycled. So that's not very much. It's a very low percentage. And every year, we saddle the earth with about 300 million tonnes of more waste. In fact, this circular economy document that we had in the previous slide was quite interesting because it pointed out the leakage in the circular economy. So trying to sort of keep PET in a sort of continuous loop, what they were doing was calculating the leakage that comes out of that loop, and it's huge. It really is huge. That's why only 17% of plastic bottles were really ending up as rPET and being used again. What about another myth? Let's build more recycling. So if we want to do better, we need more recycling systems. Well, to a certain extent, it is positive if there is recycling. But recycling really, as this report pointed out from the Centre of International Environment Law, recycling is really a bridge to greater plastic reduction. Or if you looked at it in the other way, less use of plastic. It's a bridge to it. rather than let's have more recycling so that it encourages everyone to use plastic just once and not worry about it. This is not a guilt-free system. And there is a danger, this report pointed out, that investing more in recycling continues this cycle of the singular use linear economy by encouraging people just to use and throw away because it's okay, it gets recycled. So this was a very interesting report pointing out the disadvantage of investing in recycling infrastructure in order to make it easy to recycle, because it just propagates again that single-use mentality, which really is a consumer behavior more than anything else. It's a consumer behavior or a habit. So the fifth one, recycled plastic is better. Now, I find this information quite interesting. It was a brand new study that came out quite recently from University of Gothenburg in Sweden. And they looked at recycling plastic pellets from 13 different countries and were quite surprised at the array, the mind-boggling array of toxic compounds in the plastic pellets that had been recycled. So the interesting thing is, not only are these chemicals from the original plastic that these pellets came from, but they're also they were also looking at data that suggested that some of these other compounds are being absorbed within the recycling process. So as your recycled plastic is going through its process of being shredded and mixed up with others and washed and all sorts of other things to get it into a way that it can be used in a plastics factory, it's collecting chemicals. Now, this is quite new research, and there has been some other research as well about which the last research I read also was from Denmark, actually, which suggested that we need to be very careful about using recycled plastic in bottles, for instance, such as drinking water, because we do not know yet just how safe it is. So again, I think it's interesting to start looking at this research. Because this myth that recycled plastic is better and you can keep just using it once and throwing it away, it's not always the case at the moment, and there is a lot more research that needs to be done. So lastly, I wanted to touch on chemical recycling and the waste to energy argument. The waste to energy argument is quite simple. Don't worry about recycling, because after we collect it, we shall incinerate it if it can't be processed any further, and there's a lot of plastic like that, and then don't worry, it's okay, we've made energy out of it, so it's not been wasted. Well, that's not really true, and Beyond Plastics has done a lot of study into this and concluded that making plastic into fuel is not recycling. According to international accepted definitions, plastic to fuel is not recycling, it is a dirty and dangerous disposal method. Chemical recycling falls into that same category. It has failed continuously to produce plastic in an eco-friendly way, and it is quite dangerous and highly toxic. So it's something to be really careful about. Finally, this is not a myth. Those were the 6 myths. But finally, there is a lot of greenwashing about. And obviously, the greenwashing and the information that comes out on the positive side of recycling excuse me, is designed to encourage consumers to use plastic once and throw it away and feel okay about it. Greenwashing from larger companies. This is an article from the BBC that was pointing out these 2 major drinks manufacturers about their bottles being 100% recycled. The evidence is clear. Plastic bottles are simply not recycled again and again to become new bottles in Europe, said a plastics lawyer at Client Earth. And within this article, the BBC was pointing out that one of the environmental groups has made a complaint to the European Commission under greenwashing because these bottles can never be made of 100% recycled plastic. It's not possible. So really that was, that's all for this evening. The answer really that I wanted to talk about is think of recycling last, not first. So again, all of the positive information that comes out about recycling is either angled towards hitting the recycling numbers that are put out by the EU. Malta has done better with this because of BCRS. If it gets to 70% in 2023, as it's meant to, then that's very good. We were at like 35% a year or two ago. And so getting more recycling means, from an EU perspective, it's very good because we hit our numbers. However, it's part of this thinking of recycling first, not last. And again, all your bottle manufacturers, oil and gas companies, producers, recyclers, everybody in that business who are making money out of producing plastic and selling it to you as a consumer, they are going to say recycling first, not last. However, how about as a consumer saying recycling last, not first? How about refusing it first? How about reducing it if you can't refuse it? How about reusing it if you can or if you have to? And then recycle and then rotting it. So this refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, this originally came from zerowastehome.com, Bear Johnson, who coined this phrase. And these 5 R's have been put out in different ways at different times, but this was the original: refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. Obviously here at Tap Water, as far as drinking water is concerned with plastic bottles, we would say refuse and get a water filter, attach it to your kitchen mixer, something like this, a Tap Echo Pro. This is the smallest water filter available in Malta. You just attach your kitchen mixer here. This is a filter that filters 100 different contaminants from your water. It's inside. There is no need to use plastic bottles for drinking water at all at 50 cents every 2 litres. This is giving you pure drinking water, clean and tasty at 2 cents a litre, over 2,500 litres every year, with a pack of 6 of these filters. And you get your washing water out of here, and you get your filtered water out of here just by turning this switch. It's really convenient. You just fit it to your mixer. And a whole pack of filters for a year is under €100. And you can save 15% off with this voucher. And also you can get a government grant of 40%. And you can just, if you have a look at our website, you can find out all about the filtration system here, what it does and things like that. Just have a look on our website there, and you'll be able to see all of that. So that's it for this evening. Lastly, that very quote that I do love, this quote from Inga Anderson, who is the UN Environment Chief. Humanity cannot just recycle its way out of the mess. Something to think about. Just refuse those plastic bottles for drinking water. So far, just over 4,000 customers actually in Tap Water are saving well over 3 million plastic bottles a year by just having a water filter installed in their home, and they're saving money. It's good for the environment, and they're saving time because they have to go a lot less often to the BCRS machine, because just reducing your plastic bottles for drinking water reduces the amount of waste that you will create completely. It's been my pleasure to be with you this evening. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe the page, and then you'll get further updates. Well, thank you very much for watching this evening. I'll see you again next time.